you look at any of the live year progress bar sites out there, you'll see we're at exactly 50%. So it's time to reminisce on some tech and gear that either never got into the spotlight of the regularly scheduled program and or deserves to be in it once again. Now, some of the items I'm going to show you might be unobtainable. Others just too fun and quirky to ignore, yet all of them have brought a smile on my face and have left a lasting impression. As always, all the items will be linked in the description below, and there's a special announcement for those of you who care about cool digital products. Now let me start with an item I'm spending the most time staring at. It actually came at the tail end of last year, so it isn't really brand new, but it's still the window to my work and, by extension, to all of you. A couple of months ago, it actually survived a serious threat because Apple finally made the monitor I'd been waiting for years. The new Studio Display XDR. Real mini LED this time, 2000 nits of peak brightness, proper HDR, and at long last, 120Hz ProMotion panel with Thunderbolt 5. It is gorgeous, but it's also over $3,000. Yet I'm still on this, the Asus ROG Strix 5K. And look, sitting next to this slab of Apple aluminum, this thing is the ugly duckling. It's clear. It's a gaming monitor, it's got RGB glow in the back. It's not trying to be, a pretty object on the desk. But on paper, for the work that I actually do, it wins because both the ROG and the XDR are 27-inch 5K panels at 218 pixels per inch, which is the exact density macOS is built around. So the sharpness is identical, except the Strix runs at 180 Hz and flips to 330 at 1440p for the competitive gamers out there. It ships factory calibrated with built-in KVM and more ports than most people will ever need. And the kicker is that it costs around $800. I'm just waiting for you to do the math. Now, I'm not going to pretend it's a better panel in every way because Apple's mini LEDs brighter with deeper blacks, where the HDR is simply on another level, while mine doesn't even have speakers. But I live in a desktop at least 10 hours a day. I edit, I write, I occasionally lose an evening to a game, and for all of that, the Strix hands me everything that actually matters, plus speed Apple still can't touch at a quarter of the price. So it not only ruined other displays for me, but even the fanciest thing Apple has shipped still couldn't talk me out of it. By the way, if you end up enjoying this video, subscribe, because why not? A few months ago, I made a video about a little box that changed how I live with my own data. The video was called I Stopped Renting My Digital Life, and over 500,000 of you came along for the ride. The premise was simple. I was sick of paying monthly rent on files I already owned, so I took advantage of a small 2-bay NAS by Ugreen, model number DH2300, which is their entry level. I moved my entire digital life onto it, and I started killing subscriptions one by one. And you know what? It worked. Too well, in fact. You see, the moment your stuff lives somewhere you actually have control over, the brain does this funny thing where it stops asking where are my files and it starts asking, what else could this thing do? Now, truth be told, the entry-level NAS has its limitations. Think 2 drives mirrored, so half my space is just insurance. Plus, it's a little underpowered for running things like Docker and Flex, which I actually managed to set up anyway. But being so hooked, I decided to upgrade with this. NASync DXP 4800 GT, which sounds like a sports car, with 4 bays. Things here are barely about storage. The thing that actually sold me is that this one has a brain. There's a proper 4-core AMD processor inside, and that single difference turns it from a hard drive you talk to into a proper server. It runs Docker, spins up virtual machines, hosts my own media server, streaming my films to any TV anywhere. It's just awesome. While the old one stored my life, this one can actually run. What I love most is that it has two 10 gigabit network ports, meaning I can drop a 4K project onto the NAS and cut it straight off the box over my network. It's like it's bolted to my Mac. Plus there's an SD slot for direct storage. Besides the much roomier 4 base, there's a couple of NVMe slots for a fast cache, and of course, headroom up to 144 terabytes. The DH2300 isn't going anywhere, by the way. It's actually getting demoted to backup duty, the safety net under the safety net, which, when I say it out loud, is a strangely good place to be. Okay, so this next one made me laugh before I even plugged it in. It's a 3D printer covered in emojis. It's made by ELEGOO, who partnered with Emoji, the actual emoji brand, on what they're calling the first co-branded 3D printer in the world. Now, when I first heard that, I wasn't sure if it was a gimmick, but it's not. They actually went all in. The outer box, the side panel, the screen, even the build plate. Emojis are everywhere, and here's what I didn't expect. It ships with the official emoji models already loaded. So you pick one and just hit print. I had no choice but to run the sunglasses face first, then my favorite, explode face. Both swap colors on their own, and the end result? Real-life emojis. Taking it a step further, I went ahead and printed my own headphone stand, which I found on the community-based Nextprint. Zero modeling skills required. This 3D printer is ready out of the box and fully enclosed, which makes it stupidly good gift for someone else or for yourself. I'll link it below. Not long ago, I made a whole video calling this the foldable to beat. The Oppo Find N6 is thinner than a pencil when you open it, and for a while, it was the only device I carried. So putting it on my favorites list almost feels like cheating. But it earned a spot twice over, because since that review, something actually came for its crown, and it came from inside Oppo's own house again, the Find X9 Ultra. On paper, this is an assassin. A 200 megapixel main camera on one of the biggest sensors ever put in a phone, a true 10x periscope, even a dedicated black and white lens. As a camera, it's a monster, and I love it for that. I fully expected it to pull me away, but that actually never happened because the N6 is just a more elegant thing to live with. It's the most graceful unfolding device I've ever held, and with that second generation titanium hinge, it has zero fill crease, which is noticeable. And the N6 also carries its own 200 megapixel Hasselblad system. Is it the X9 Ultra? No, but it's close enough, plus I get a tablet that folds into my pocket as a trade, so really, the way I see it, the Ultra is the phone I'd grab for the one perfect shot, while the N6 is the one I want in my hand all day long. Also recently, Oppo did something that sealed it further. In my review, I showed off controlling my Mac from the phone, but the latest update of O+ Connect flipped it around, where I now can run the N6 from my Mac's own mouse and keyboard. The cursor slides off my screen and onto the phone, copy-paste flowing both directions like they're just one machine. For someone who lives half in Android and half in macOS, that's the bridge I've been begging for, and this is what a foldable is actually for. So yeah, the camera flagship didn't dethrone it, and months later, against Oppo's own best shot, the Find N6 is still my favorite phone on the planet right now. And while we are on Oppo, they sent me their next thing that just came out, the Reno 16 series. I've got both the Reno 16 and Reno 16 Pro samples here, freshly unboxed, and I figured I'd give you an early look. Quick disclaimer, I haven't lived with those phones yet, so this isn't a verdict, it's a first impression, and here's what caught my attention. I don't know if you know this, but the Reno line has always been Oppo's mid-ranger category that focuses on creators, and this one leans all the way in, starting with the part most phones treated as an afterthought, the front-facing camera. It's a 50 megapixel ultra-wide selfie with a 100-degree field of view, which in plain terms means you can fit a whole group of people in the selfie without, sticking an arm or trying to do some weird stretches. This of course makes it perfect as a vlogging camera, but the bit that made me grin is this. It's called the Oppo Bubble. 35 grams, magnetic with a little AMOLED screen on it, and it snaps onto the back of the phone and it becomes a live monitor for the rear cameras. So instead of settling for the front camera, you shoot your selfie on your vlog on the good lenses on the back and frame yourself using the bubble. It even works as a remote shutter from across the room 10 meters out. The rest fills in the creator picture. The Pro has a 200 megapixel main camera. There's a pop cam mode, which I actually love a lot, with film looks baked into the camera app, AI tools that yank a moving subject out of a video and turn it into a sticker, and a design Oppo's calling Pop Planet, where the white model has this nebula effect that actually looks like it's floating under the glass. Like I said, this is a mid-range phone with mid-range spec, but these are the most fun ideas I've seen on a phone at this price in a while, and that's exactly why it's here, as I'm really curious to test it next. Another item that actually sparked a lot of interest in my recent Everyday Carry episode was this pair of earbuds, the Anker Soundcore Liberty 5 Pro Max. What I didn't mention then was that they actually have a sibling called Liberty 5 Pro. Both of these earbuds feature a record-breaking call quality with lag-free voice control, industry-leading ANC, and the signature Liberty sound customization. The exclusive features that the Pro Max stands out with, besides the larger display, are the built-in AI note taker and the live translation option, which I could only wish for while I was in China. Another personal favorite of mine that comes with both pairs is the ability to pair them with 3 devices. With the AMOLED display on the Pro Max, I can control my music, the ANC settings, and even customize it with my own wallpaper. At the heart of the Liberty 5 Pro series is Anker's first self-developed AI chip called ThisIsE. This upgrade allows clearer calls in any environment, smarter ANC, personalized sound calibrated to your hearing, and instant voice control. What's nice is that you can get a full refund when you return your undamaged products within 30 days for any reason. So I'll link them both below. As for the announcement I promised earlier, those of you who love iOS widgets and care about the aesthetics of their devices, you can now take advantage of this not too shabby discount on my website, as I'm about to overhaul the entire catalog and introduce a brand new aesthetics platform in about a week or so from now. Anyone who has already purchased a widget or wallpaper, I want to say a massive thank you and remind you that your support is greatly appreciated. So, next up is the low-free, high-pace mouse, which is designed for gaming with its magnesium frame full of holes. Yet again, I utilize it for productivity. You see, it's only 47 grams, which is lighter than the cable on most other mice. And the first time I picked it, my brain thought it was a display dummy, because nothing with this much going on should weigh this little. Okay, I know I bought this gaming mouse just to push a cursor around all day, but it turns out that it's the best part of it. It runs at an 8000 Hz polling rate, which is an overkill for shooters and frankly absurd for what I do, but the result is a pointer that feels welded to my hand, which when paired with the Strix monitor is an absolute bliss. Scrubbing through timelines, flying across my monitor is just butter. It also sets up through a web page instead of some bloated app, which I love. I've paired it to my Mac over the cool round 2.4 gig dongle, and this thing will go weeks between charges. Plus, it is just a looker. That 4-pedal helmet inspired shell in this gray is the rare gaming gadget that doesn't scream gamer. Going back to my everyday carry, another little accessory that piqued people's interest is this little macOS inspired folder wallet, which I talk about more in depth in my EDC episode right here. Like and subscribe to the channel as well as my newsletter, and as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. This is E, over and out.